And I thought I raised her from the dead. She's alive, you know. But I can't wait to see her again one day.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares.
Hello from beautiful Lake Tahoe, and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic community in true crime. A potential wrongful death lawsuit could be coming against Solid Rock Church, as documents left behind by MICA Miller suggest her estranged husband, John Paul, used its authority, the authority of the church, to isolate her. That's according to the family attorney, and that's from WBTV.com. I'll put a link to that source in the description. In other words, the suit wouldn't be necessarily against Pastor John Paul directly, but rather against the business he used, arguably as a pedestal, to undermine his wife publicly. According to the article, there seems to me that there could be a civil action, not against the police. The police, under the circumstances, responded appropriately under what was happening at the time. But there are other things that happened that are related to this church. And that's according to Conway-based attorney Regina Ward. That's what she said to News Nation. Now, before we get to the rest of this analysis, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Pardon me if I'm a little out of breath. We're pretty high above sea level. I'm still kind of trying to adjust. If you're enjoying this analysis, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. Now, I have to say, I find this aspect certainly quite interesting. I really can't say one way or the other what the likely outcome would be. It's legally quite tricky. There certainly is, one can intuit certain grounds for a case, but it's not as though, it's not like O.J. Simpson where, you know, he actually committed the crime directly. And so one does wonder where this is going to go. And I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the day there's some sort of settlement, much as we had with the Brian Laundrie's parents. In any event, what is also pertinent here is that MICA Miller worked alongside John Paul, you know, leading the some of the activities in the church, the women leadership classes, the youth leadership classes. She had various roles there. According to church leaders, John Paul was relieved of his ministerial functions after Miller's death, but that doesn't mean he was fired, just put on like a temporary leave. Now, according to the article, MICA was employed there, and there's a question about whether she was appropriately paid for her time. The church itself was used by John Paul, according to MICA's family lawyer. She said, I have the letters that he wrote on church stationery, so letters that John Paul wrote on church stationery to her, basically disparaging her. Now that's quite an important point. He went after everything that meant anything to this young woman. Now, besides that, there's also video evidence of the pastor talking about his wife during a Sunday service, which was then posted on the church's official YouTube channel. I think that is also some of the strongest evidence we've seen. That's in the public domain, and that is certainly, you know, using the church business, if that's the word, using the church accoutrements to achieve what he meant to achieve regarding MICA. And wasn't what he was trying to achieve, he was trying to get rid of her. Wasn't what he was trying to achieve character assassination. Wasn't he trying to turn a community against her, but within a kind of a divorce setting? And so it does feel like there's a legal case for some sort of damages, possibly. Now, the finances of the church are also quite surprising. According to the article, the Market Common Church was granted tax-exempt status in 2015. That's according to IRS filings. but publicly available records give a peek into a multi-million-dollar portfolio that falls under this the umbrella of the Solid Rock Ministries. Now, although it's surprising, we kind of get a peek into the other face, really, of the pastor's life, the sort of high-flying, jet-setting, almost lifestyles of the rich and famous, or in this case, infamous. I mean, would you think of John Paul, the man looking at this guy, as a multimillionaire? But if he was, and he knew he was, wouldn't that make him think he was a player, or that he could be a player? And that, he's the kind of person that could give random waitresses huge tips because it was easy money. And I can't help thinking about the congregation here. The congregation are giving away their money to this individual. Where's that money going? Shouldn't it be going to the poor? Shouldn't it be going to charities? Shouldn't it be going to other people that need it, the needy, rather than one person's piggy bank? And what's the result of making this particular individual rich? Is it making him a nicer person? Is it making him an asset to society? Is it making him an asset to his community and to perhaps even his family, or a liability? Is it creating a monster? Now, according to News 13, earlier this week, found that the church organization registered a 2007 Cessna SR-22 with the FAA on May 9th. The article goes on to say it's not clear when the aircraft was purchased or for how much. An airplane with that make and model listed for sale on controller.com has an asking price of almost $500,000, almost 430, sorry, did I say million? $500,000, about $430,000. Now, somewhere in his eulogy, he speaks about a plane flying over the beach with a message to his then fiancée. Seems like he has an interest in that. Also, I think he said he hates traveling. Now, the airplane in this whole fabric sketches a totally different sense of the simpleton pastor. Now he seems more like a smooth operator, doesn't he? A slick and savvy businessman. Horry County land records show that Solid Rock Ministries control 4 properties. If you aggregate their income, they're valued at over $5.5 million. That includes a over 2,000 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home along Coldwater Circle, which is listed on court documents as John Paul's address. The house also has a taxable value of almost $250,000. Now, one can see why there's so much effort at entertaining the congregation, because the congregation is a cash cow that has already cashed out an awful lot, right? Now, according to the article, Solid Rock Ministries also owns over 28 acres of land off U.S. Highway the 17 bypass. That has a total value of $3.4 million. So there are millions of dollars kind of potentially in the offing in a lawsuit. Even if a lawsuit gains a fraction of this amount, it could still be quite a lot of money. A sign on the property said Solid Rock planned to use the site to expand its Faith First Academy School. It just goes on, and perhaps it was the pastor's great wealth or his access to it that made him harder to break up with. Now, John Paul Miller doesn't own any property under his name in Horry County, according to land records. A lot of it seems to be under the umbrella of the church, which he controls effectively. The ministry also has at least 2 vehicles, a 211 Honda, wasn't that MICA's vehicle, and a 2018 Chevrolet. So what strategy was the pastor employing to get rid of his wife? Because it seems he was guilty of infidelity. Was he trying to get rid of MICA? Well, from what he was saying, even in church, I think he said he wants to get himself a hot wife. Well, if he could push her over the edge and get her hospitalized, and if she was in such a state she might not realize her rights, she might not be able to fight for her rights, She might be on the back foot. She might be intimidated. That sort of stalking behavior with slashing her tires and tracking her may have intimidated her into basically just withdrawing and sort of running away rather than getting a proper separation and defending her rights. I think the end of this article is definitely makes quite a strong point. And obviously it's the lawyer's words. He says, much to his disappointment, Pastor John Paul, he thought that with her death, the lawsuit for separation would die with her. He was quite dumbfounded and upset. So we'll obviously see how that develops. I don't think this is something that is going to be resolved ultimately in public. It may be settled in private. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.